My name is Sister Beatrice Callahan. I am 89 years old. For 43 years, I was a hospice nurse. First in the crowded wards of Philadelphia General Hospital starting in 1962, then later in the quiet homes of the Green Mountains of Vermont after I left the order but never left the work. I sat beside more than 1,300 people as they left this world. I held their hands when no one else was there. I wiped their foreheads. I listened to their last breaths change from struggle to surrender, or sometimes to sudden, terrible clarity. I saw eyes go soft with peace. I saw eyes widen with terror. And I heard the things people say when there is no more time to pretend. I never planned to speak about this publicly. I thought these truths belonged only to the quiet rooms where they were spoken. But the older I get, the more I feel the weight of silence. So many people are still waiting to say what matters, waiting to forgive, waiting to be forgiven, waiting to feel loved before the door closes mid-sentence. I have seen that door close 1,000 times. I have seen the unfinished sentence hang in the air, and I cannot carry that alone anymore. Let me tell you what I learned, not from books, not from seminars, but from the actual moment when the body stops fighting and the soul speaks plainly. In 43 years, across every kind of life, millionaires in private rooms, factory workers on Medicaid beds, artists, teachers, mothers, fathers, people who had everything and people who had nothing. Not one person, not a single one, spent their final conscious hours talking about their career. Not one asked to see their bank balance. Not one mentioned their title, their awards, their square footage, their stock portfolio, their LinkedIn profile. Those things vanished like smoke. 0 times in 1,300 deaths did anyone say, "I wish I'd worked harder," or "I wish I'd climbed higher," or "I wish I'd made more money." What they reached for, what they spoke of, what they wept over, what they smiled about in those last lucid hours was always people, always connection, always the heart. They called for mothers grown men in their 80s calling mama like small boys waking from a bad dream. They whispered names they hadn't spoken in 40 years, childhood friends, first loves, siblings they'd fought with and never reconciled. One man, dying of pancreatic cancer in 1991, kept repeating Sarah. His wife sat beside him holding his hand. I finally asked her who Sarah was. She said Sarah was his sister. They'd had a terrible argument in 1958 over their mother's estate. They hadn't spoken since. 43 years of silence. And in the final room, with machines beeping and morphine dripping, the only name on his lips was Sarah's. Not his business partner. Not his golf buddies. Sarah, the girl he used to chase through the backyard sprinkler. There is a moment I call the window of clarity. It often comes hours or a day before the end. The mind sharpens, the eyes clear. The person suddenly becomes present in a way they haven't been for weeks. And in that window, everything they've carried, everything they've buried under politeness, pride, busyness comes pouring out. A woman in her late 90s, always dignified, always composed, called her daughter close and said, "I was proud of you every single day of your life. I just never learned how to say it. I thought you knew." Her daughter broke down sobbing on the bed. 90-some years of unspoken pride finally delivered when there was almost no time left to receive it. A retired police captain, the toughest man I ever cared for, gripped my wrist with surprising strength and whispered, "I was afraid my whole life. I pretended I wasn't. I thought being afraid made me weak." This man had faced down armed men, run into burning buildings, raised 4 children, and his final confession was that underneath the badge and the authority was a frightened boy who never told anyone. And then there is the replay. When the talking stops and the eyes drift upward, past the ceiling, past the room, they begin to describe moments. Tiny, sensory, ordinary moments that no one ever photographed. A woman in her 90s smiled for the first time in weeks and said, "I can smell Mama's kitchen on Sunday. Rain on the window, bread in the oven, the way the steam rose from the pot of chicken soup." She died 2 hours later with that smile still on her face. A man in his 80s spoke softly about catching fireflies with his daughter when she was 5, her little hands reaching up. The green glow in the jar, her laugh when one landed on her nose, the grass wet on our feet. He hadn't mentioned that memory in 40 years, but in the final hours it was the clearest thing he had. A farmer described the way fog looked hanging over his field in October, silver and still. A school teacher spoke of the sound of children's shoes running down the hallway on the last day of school. These are the memories the dying brain reaches for when everything else burns away. Not the wedding day. The quiet moment before the wedding when she stood in the hallway and he saw her through the crack in the door. Not the big vacation. The afternoon they got lost and sat on a curb sharing a bottle of water and laughing at nothing. After 43 years, this is what I know with absolute certainty. The things consuming you right now, the deadlines, the arguments, the mortgage, the inbox, the politics, the endless scroll, they will evaporate completely in your final hours. They will not exist. What will exist is how things felt. The warmth of a child sleeping on your chest. The first time someone said, "I love you," and it landed in your stomach like truth. Rain on a window when you were safe inside with someone you loved. A hand held under a table. A laugh that came out of nowhere. Your mother's voice calling your name from the bottom of the stairs. These are the files your soul keeps when the body can no longer hold anything else. The cruelest part, the thing that still wakes me some nights, is that most people don't discover this until it is too late. They spend decades building things that vanish at the end, while the things that endure are happening quietly, unnoticed, uncelebrated. I retired at 75, not because my hands shook or my knees gave out, but because the urgency had become unbearable. Every patient was a messenger. The message was always the same. Don't wait. Don't wait to say I love you. Don't wait to call the friend. Don't wait to forgive or ask forgiveness. Don't wait to sit in the grass with your grandchild and do nothing except be there. Don't wait for the deathbed to say what the living room was built for. I am 89 now. I don't know how many mornings I have left, but I know this. When my time comes, I will not be reviewing my resume. I will be reaching for the people I loved and the moments that felt like home. I will be hoping I told the truth while I could. I will be replaying some ordinary Tuesday afternoon that meant nothing at the time and everything at the end. 1,000 people died holding my hand. Nearly every one of them in some form said the same thing. I should have said it sooner. Whatever you need to say to your mother, your father, your sibling, your child, your friend, say it sooner. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when things calm down. Now, while there are still hands on the other side to hold yours. Because the door closes mid-sentence. I've seen it 1,300 times. And behind it are all the words that waited too long. If you're listening to this and you feel something stir, something tender, something urgent, don't push it away. Let it move you. Speak. Reach. Forgive. Love out loud. The time is shorter than you think. Thank you for letting an old nurse sit with you a little while. If anything here touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you feel safe, leave a comment. One thing you're going to say before it's too late. I will read every one. I carry them with me. May you live long enough to say what matters, and may you say it while there is still time.